Rob's Rants is brought to you by Tiz Rayquaza. These are his opinions that are 100% correct. Do not get triggered, and remember, no snowflakes allowed.
What? How? What the fuck? Phil Steele has come out with his top 25 predictions for the 2020 college football season. I'm Tiz Rayquaza. It's Friday, and you know what that means. It's time for some rants. And today, I'm going to rant/review Phil Steele's preview or prediction for his 25 best teams of the 2020 college football season. Now, I get it. Right now, no one is sure if the season's actually going to happen due to COVID-19. I like to remain optimistic, and I'm really hoping the season does happen. But on a side note, for those of you who don't know who Phil Steele is, he is one of the most knowledgeable sports analysts in the game, especially when it comes to college football. I don't know how he does it. I don't know if he has a crystal ball in his home, but he does a very good job of predicting rankings throughout the season, as well as bowl matchups. And his top 25 preseason rankings are out and ready for me to review. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, so we are on 247sports.com. This is Phil Steele's college football 2020 season top 25 predictions. So rather than me going through all 25 teams, because I do agree with a lot of Phil Steele's picks and predictions, one, it will take too long, and two, the only teams that I believe have a chance of making the playoffs are all in the top 10. So I would just be wasting a lot of time going through Virginia Tech and Miami and Minnesota and just a bunch of teams that, yeah, they deserve to be in the top 25, but realistically, they're not going to make the top 10, and they're definitely not going to make the playoffs. But I will just go through 25 through 11 just to give you an idea of the idea that Phil Steele has for the 2020 season. So number 25 is Memphis, number 24 is Oklahoma State, number 23 is Iowa, number 22 is UCF, number 21 the Kentucky Wildcats, number 20, shockingly, the Tennessee Vols, 19 is Auburn, 18 Virginia Tech, 17 Miami, 16 the Tar Heels, and if I am going to comment on any of these teams in the 25 through 11 group, I would put Virginia Tech at 16 and move North Carolina to 18. That's just my opinion. I think Virginia Tech is a very good team. They have a lot of seniority, a lot of guys coming back, a very good coach. And also, as a Penn State fan, who Penn State originally was scheduled to play Virginia Tech in their out-of-conference schedule. That was a matchup that kind of scared me a little bit, and I think it would have really defined the season for both teams. But I do think Virginia Tech will be really the only team in the ACC besides Clemson to actually make some noise this year. Michigan at 15, Wisconsin at 14, Florida at 13, which is where they belong. I don't want to hear it from anybody. Florida's offense is boring. There is nothing special about their quarterback, and a lot of their stars went to the NFL draft this year on the defensive side of the ball. And I've said this before in my most toxic fandom rant. The SEC is the best conference due to 3 or 4 superpowers. However, Florida, they are good. They're not that great. They are not an unbeatable force. And due to, the lack of non-conference scheduling and having to play only SEC teams, and Florida just, they do not have an easy schedule. I do not see Florida reaching the top 10 because of that, and nor do they deserve to be in the top 10 before the season even begins. The Texas Longhorns at 12, the USC Trojans at 11, and now we are at the top 10, starting with my alma mater, the Penn State Nittany Lions. Okay, this is, I don't want to be biased, even though the this is my rant, and all of my opinions are obviously 100% correct. I do think this is low for Penn State. They are getting back. Well, I'm hoping they get him back because there are rumors of him sitting out the season. But if he comes back, Micah Parsons is the best defensive player in all of college football. In my opinion, he will be the first defensive player drafted. When he declares for the draft, he will have some Heisman Trophy votes. He will be in New York for the Heisman showcase. They have Sean Clifford coming back, who, although he struggled as a sophomore last year, I think with a year under his belt, he's going to take a huge step forward. And he's obviously going to be a major factor in Penn State's 2020 season. They have a very strong running back core. Although they lost KJ Hamler, which is a huge loss because there were games where they really relied on him at receiver, I think other guys will step up. It was kind of the same, in my opinion, with Saquon Barkley. Obviously, when he was at Penn State, a lot of defenses, they focused on him. And losing a superstar can be good and bad. You lose that weapon, but at the same time, it forces teams to think of a new strategy how to defend your offense. And I think it will allow other receivers to develop, and I think it will allow Sean Clifford to develop his game as well. So they should be in the top 10. I think they should be at least number 7. I think their Cotton Bowl victory, although it wasn't against the strongest Memphis team, a good Memphis team, but not the strongest team in college football, I think that New Year's 6 victory, as well as all of their players coming back, including Micah Parsons, hopefully, in my opinion, they're the 7th best team to start the season. But Penn State's number 10. The Oregon Ducks. So, in my opinion, I think USC will be higher than Oregon come the end of the season. I think Oregon losing Justin Herbert is a huge loss. He was a major factor into their offense. And respectively so, he was a wonderful quarterback. I had the opportunity to actually watch him play in the college football season opener last year against Auburn. Unfortunately, they lost. But I think due to USC returning so many starters and Oregon losing Herbert and other key players, I think USC will finish the season higher ranked than Oregon. But I don't think either Pac-10 teams will be in the top 10 when the season ends, in my opinion. I think USC beats Oregon. I think USC most likely has a bad loss. They always do. They're not at that elite level that they used to be. And I think with this season, because of COVID-19 and so many conferences not playing out-of-conference games, that is going to hurt the Pac-12, Pac-10, whatever you want to call it. I'm just calling it the Pac-10. But I think it'll hurt the Pac-10 because they are not one of the stronger Power 5 conferences. Besides USC and Oregon, I don't even know who you could argue for because Washington lost their quarterback. My God. That was really the only other team you could argue last year. Washington State lost their head coach. And really the rest of the Pac-12 is just not as strong as it used to be. So that's why I think USC will be better than Oregon. However, there will not be a Pac-12 team in the top 10. They'll be 11 or 12. But I don't think a Pac-12 team deserves to be in the top 10 because of the other teams that are currently not in the top 10 that deserve to be in the top 10, and the current teams that will just solidify their place throughout the season. Notre Dame, let's just get out of the way. They suck. They are not a good football team. I understand they're returning their, my God, I think he's like a 6-year senior. I don't know how many years he's been there. But Notre Dame is not a good team. I cannot stand Brian Kelly. I really cannot stand that guy. I respect Notre Dame because they are a very prideful football program. A lot of people argue that they are the New York Yankees of college football. I know plenty of people who are Notre Dame fans. I had the privilege to block for a former Notre Dame running back. Not trying to flex by any means, but I just don't think Notre Dame is a very good program these days. At least I think their schedules are very, very weak. I understand they play Clemson this year, and I think the reason why Phil Steele would put Notre Dame in the top 10 is because that's their toughest game is against Clemson, and it's at Notre Dame. So if that's a big if they can avoid any upset, which the thing with Notre Dame is if they lose any of these just slop matchups, they're automatically eliminated from the top 10 and from playoff play. But and that's a huge if they were to beat Clemson, then yeah, they deserve not only to be in the top 10, but they would probably have a huge statement to make the college football playoffs. I don't see it. I see them getting destroyed by Clemson. I see them having an upset loss that they have every single year. I see them losing to Michigan, because I think Michigan would be very good this year. And I do not think Notre Dame will be in the top 10 come the end of the season. Nor do I think they should be a top 10 team to start the season. So moving on to the Georgia Bulldogs. This, in my opinion, this team is the only reason why the SEC East is not a joke. Like I said, I think Florida is very overrated. Georgia, however, is really the only team in the SEC East to make the SEC West scared or sweat their positioning in the playoffs. Obviously, they were close to winning the national championship, or close to getting to the national championship multiple times in the past. They don't fear Alabama. They don't fear anybody in the SEC. They are a very good team, and they lost their starting running back, which is going to hurt. But they just keep getting brand new talent every single year. They are getting the top recruits at every single position. I know a lot of people were in love with Jake Fromm. I was not. I think losing Jake Fromm will improve their offense. I do think they deserve to be in the top 10. I do not think they will make the playoffs. But you'll see who I believe will be in the playoffs towards the end of this evaluation. LSU Tigers, I think 6 is perfect. They were the champs last year. They lost practically everybody there. They lost their entire offense. It's going to be tough to recover. They are not going to be bad. I think they're still going to win, 6, 7, 8 games. I think that's the span, worst case scenario, best case scenario. I'd have to review their schedule. But I do still think their defense is very good. I love Coach Orgeron. Obviously, they're not beating Bama. They don't have the offensive firepower to do so. And they play a lot of teams away this year. I do think they deserve to be number 6. They could potentially, they're probably going to be out of the top 10 towards the end of the season. They're not by any means repeating as champs. They're not going to make the playoffs. But I think them to start at 6 is a good spot. And it'll be interesting to see how Orgeron replaces all the superstars that they lost. Number 5, the Texas A&M Aggies. I was very surprised when I saw this. Now that I live in Texas, I've met so many Aggie fans. This is wrong. I understand that their schedule is much easier than last year. They don't play Clemson. They play LSU at home. and their toughest game is against Bama. They avoid Florida. They avoid Georgia. In a way, they control their own destiny. I know a lot of people love Kellen Mond. I know a lot of people hate Kellen Mond. But at the end of the day, he's a senior. He has a lot of experience. Their schedule is not as difficult as last year. Would I put them in the top 5? Absolutely not. Would I put them in the top 15? Yes. If they can end their season with one loss to Alabama and beat LSU, then yeah, I believe they deserve to be the number 5 seed, and they could make a statement at potentially making the college football playoffs. However, I don't see it happening. I don't see them beating LSU. I don't see them beating Alabama. Kellen Mond and their team has been known to make many mistakes in the past. I see them potentially losing a game against Kentucky, who is a pretty good team this year. So yeah, I completely disagree with the number 5 spot. No offense to Phil Steele, he knows way more than I do, but this is my rant, and my opinions are final, and they're correct, so nothing you can do about it. Number 4, Oklahoma. I can't stand the Big 12. I hate the Big 12. I don't like lack of defense. I think it's boring. I don't like watching 60 to 65 games. I do love Lincoln Riley, though. I think he's a wonderful coach, at least offensively. And I don't have anything against Oklahoma. I do know Oklahoma fans that are pretty bitter against those who, dislike the Big 12 because of their lack of defense. And Oklahoma is a very good team. At the end of the day, they are the best team in the Big 12. And if they end the season undefeated, they probably will get that 4 spot. They'll get absolutely curb stomped by the number 1 seed, whether it be Clemson, Alabama, or Ohio State. But the Big 12 is the 3rd best Power 5 conference. They play Texas, they play TCU, they play Oklahoma State. They have a wonderful offense. I know they lost a lot of weapons, a lot of offensive weapons to the draft, including CeeDee Lamb. But Lincoln Riley is a wonderfully offensive-minded coach. He'll be able to replace those guys. They'll still be putting up 50, 60 points a game. And if they go undefeated, yes, they will be the 4 seed. However, I think this is Texas's year to finally beat Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout. And look out for the TCU Horned Frogs. They are not in the top 25. This is my dark horse of the season. They're recruiting very well. They got the number 1 running back in the class. And I think they will not only be ranked in the top 25 come the end of the season, but they will continue to grow. And I think this could be an upset matchup for Oklahoma, on top of other games. I mean, when you play no defense, all it takes is a couple of mistakes on offense, and you're losing by 21 to a middle-of-the-pack Big 12 team. But if they go undefeated, yes, they deserve to make the playoffs. So the remaining 3 teams, this is no surprise. Alabama, number 3. I don't really need to go into detail about them. It's Alabama. They're going to be in the playoffs no matter what. They're very good. Same thing with Clemson. Who do I like more, Dabo Swinney or Nick Saban? I like Nick Saban more. I like them both, but I like Nick Saban more. I like his demeanor and how stern he is. I think, in my opinion, Clemson is better than Alabama due to just their recruiting classes have been, I believe, top 5 for the past decade. Not that Alabama's hasn't, but I think Clemson has more weapons on both offense and defense. I think Trevor Lawrence is hands down the Heisman Trophy winner. I would just hand it to him now. I really don't see anybody else competing with him for the Heisman, with the exception of Michael Parsons from Penn State. Don't forget that. Do not forget Michael Parsons. And that's why I think Clemson is the 2 spot. However, I do think this could potentially be the last reign of Clemson football. They're not going to fall off the face of the earth once Trevor Lawrence leaves. They still have Dabo Swinney. They're going to be a great program, but I don't think they're going to be as dominant after this season. However, they without a doubt are the number 2 seed. And then number 1, and I hate to admit that a rival of Penn State's is the number 1 seed, Ohio State is the best team in football. They are legit. In my opinion, they should have been in the championship last year if it wasn't for their quarterback, Justin Fields, making a very poor pass on the last play of the game. They would have gotten curb stomped by LSU and not Clemson. But LSU is not a contender this year, and I think Ohio State with Justin Fields and just the continuous recruiting and replacement of superstars. I know they lost J.K. Dobbins. I know they lost a lot of defensive players. It's going to be tough to replace those guys at first, but this is Ohio State. They're one of the best college football programs ever. And I truly believe that they deserve to be the number 1 seed. And not only that, but they're probably going to win the national championship as well. So, after all that, as you can see, I don't disagree with Phil Steele that much. Like I said, the top 3 make sense. I would put Penn State a little higher. I would remove Oregon, Notre Dame, and A&M from the top 10. I would probably put Georgia at 5 rather than A&M, obviously. And I might also include Wisconsin in the top 10. They're currently in the top 15, but a team like Wisconsin, they're in the Big Ten West. Their schedule is not as difficult as the Big Ten East, which means they're going to make the Big Ten championship game, which means they get a shot at Ohio State, which means playoff indications all the time. However, I think Phil Steele is a very knowledgeable guy. As you can see, he does not list who he thinks will win the championship by any means. But like I said, 1 through 3 will be in the playoffs. There's no doubt in my mind. I know I said that if Oklahoma goes undefeated, they will make the playoffs. I do not think they do. I think they lose to Texas. I think Penn State makes the playoffs. I truly do. I think not only should they be the 7th-ranked team to start the season, I think they have so many weapons coming back. I think their schedule is perfect for them. They play Ohio State at home at the Whiteout, where they beat them last time in one of the most electric environments in college football. They will beat Michigan because Michigan can't hang with Penn State. They will win the Big Ten. They will be the 4 seed. And then Ohio State will put them in their place in the playoffs. However, as a Penn State fan, it'll be nice to see that all of the work that was put into these seasons has finally paid off. All the money we've given James Franklin and all the time we've given him, in my opinion, will result in a playoff appearance this year. But it's Ohio State's season to lose. They will be the national championship. They will win it. And yeah, that's my opinion. If you don't like it, then tough shit.